Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Nick Marro here with DFS Jayhawk. We're here as always to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Got a pretty solid slate tonight. Nice number of games, in my opinion. We got 5 games to choose from. Some value already opening up. Slate doesn't lock till 7:30, so be sure to keep that in mind. But yeah, Jayhawk, what are your initial thoughts on this one? I think you said you kind of liked it coming in here.
Yeah, I love this slate, man. Just a ton of great options up top. Obviously SGA, Sabonis, some of the top options up top, and then yeah, got a couple questionable tags as well with Indiana. So definitely a lot of ways to go on the slate, and yeah, looking forward to breaking it down.
Yeah, man, we got some time today, so I think we can go team by team. We'll talk through ownership and I guess any plays that are kind of jumping out on us. There are some pricing discrepancies between the two sites. I know you play more DK, I play more FanDuel, so that should kind of work out for our viewers here. But yeah, let's get into this one. We got one game locking, actually 2 games locking at 7:30, depending where you're looking. The NBA injury report has, let's see, the Chicago at Toronto game listed first. Chicago 2-point favorites on the road at Toronto. A little bit surprising to see, but that's because they just traded Siakam, and it's also a back-to-back for the Raptors here. So I guess let's start with Chicago. Should be a competitive spot for them. Again, Toronto on a back-to-back. Yes, they're on the road. Tight spread though, so plenty of reason to like them. And then looking at the injury report, nothing major. Torrey Craig's still out. No surprise there. Dalen Terry is probable. Patrick Williams being questionable, I guess, is the one piece of news we need to keep an eye on. I don't know that we've gotten word on him yet, but how do you feel about the Bulls here? Because I think they're kind of low owned for a 5 game slate. I don't mind mixing them in, but it's really tough to call anything a priority necessarily.
Yeah, I think they all look okay. My favorite probably would be Kobe White here, point guard eligible. He's been very good. Ever since he kind of revolutionized himself, was pretty bad the first 2 years of his career, but really stepping up. So I think he would be my favorite guy. But yeah, not too many priorities from Chicago.
I agree. I do like White. And it's funny. It's almost like Levine getting hurt kind of gave him the confidence he needed, like moving
Yeah,
forward. Because it seems like even with Levine back now, he's going to continue to be a good producer, which is good to see. For me personally, I like Vooch here. Vooch tends to do well against smaller front courts, kind of struggles against bigger centers. Obviously, Toronto, no Jakob Poeltl. With Siakam out of there, Jonte Porter is probably going to get the start, and then we'll see some Thad Young in at center as well. So for me, I think it's a good spot for Vooch at his price. Pretty low owned, 7,500 on DK, 800 on FanDuel. There's a ton of good value at center tonight, which I think is why that ownership's down. But yeah, I mean, White looks good. I really do like Vooch in the matchup, but I think DeRozan and Levine are fine to mix in. But yeah, this is one team where they're all kind of priced where they should be. I think everything seems about right, like nothing really glaring.
yeah. No, I agree.
Uh, and then, yeah, let's move into Toronto now, who they are facing. One of the chalkiest plays on the slate is going to be Gary Trent. Again, Pascal Siakam's been traded away. Jakob Poeltl's still out. No Otto Porter either. Koloko, I think they cut him. I don't know what happened to him. But yeah, looking here, we do have some concentrated ownership on these starters. Gary Trent had a good game last night, still sub 5K on both sites. RJ Barrett's been really solid since the trade for the most part. There was one game he got benched after a rough half, but other than that, he has been good there. Emmanuel quickly looks great. Definitely seeing more minutes in usage now that he's in Toronto. Scotty Barnes, he hasn't been so great since the trade, but with Siakam out, I do think he's going to see increased usage. And then obviously we have to kind of deal with this front court here. I'm guessing we see Porter start again. That Young come off the bench. They're both okay as value. Tough for me to call either a priority though. But yeah, what are your takes on Toronto here? Gary Trent, good chalk. RJ Barrett, good chalk. And I guess how do you feel about the rest of this?
Yeah, first thing I do want to mention, someone posted on Discord, it is Gary Trent's birthday narrative tonight.
Ooh.
I don't know how old he is, but definitely something to note there with Gary Trent. Yeah, I really like him here at 4,300. Bruce Brown did get traded to Toronto, so I'm not sure if he's going to play tonight or what his role is going
Not
to be.
today. Yep.
Not tonight, you said?
Yeah, yeah, he's not available
Okay,
tonight.
yeah.
So
So yeah, Gary Trent should start once again. Really like him here. And then Barrett's a guy I've been playing a ton of around the 6.5K range. Just been very consistent, playing a really big role here for Toronto. So love RJ Barrett as well. And then Quickly and Barnes I think are both fine. Prefer Quickly at 7K. I think Scotty Barnes, like I loved playing this guy early on in the season, but when Quickly and Barrett came to Toronto, they kind of took over the point guard roles.
mhm.
Scotty just doesn't have that same role that I feel like he did have prior to their prior to them coming. So,
Yeah,
well,
and I don't mean to cut you off. I have to be rude though because I just saw that Bruce Brown is actually available, as is Jordan
oh,
Mora. I don't know how many minutes Mora is going to get, but Brown definitely should see significant run here. That's probably going to cut into maybe trying to bear it a little bit. I still like them, but yeah, had to catch myself on that one. I don't think the model's caught up yet, but gonna run a refresh now. But that's definitely big news because even in his first game there, you have to think Brown plays 30 minutes, right?
yeah, definitely. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean the good news that is the first game. The model should update. We're an hour and a half before the slate locking. We did get him into the model here. Only 10 minutes projected. I think that's gonna have to come up though.
Yeah, I don't know if they really want to rush him too much though on his debut. Yeah, I'd assume around like 15, maybe 20 if he's playing good.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I mean it's a thin rotation otherwise. So I still think the starters are going to be able to get theirs. But I mean, if Trent's going to be over 50% and we see Brown starting next to him, I don't know that they can go small here necessarily. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised to see Brown start over Trent. I guess that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Um, but yeah, the Trent ownership made sense at 50 plus with Brown out. But now that Brown's in, I have to think that comes down a bit. I still like Trent, but it's tough not to think he's going to be a little bit riskier.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't start, right? Like I will want to be way lower if Trent doesn't start tonight. So
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, that's a situation we'll definitely monitor throughout the stream here. Maybe we get news about that starting lineup. But yeah, I didn't think they'd be ready to go. And Jordan Noir too is interesting. I do think they want to get him involved a little bit. I don't know who he's going to be taking minutes from necessarily. Um, but yeah, just another body there that we're going to have to keep in mind. So maybe we come back to Toronto. That situation's definitely fluid. I misspoke though. I thought Brown would be out. He's in, as is Mora. They're both available and good to go. So yeah, that's one we're gonna have to maybe circle back on. But yeah, let's move into the next 7:30 game here. We have the Washington Wizards and the New York Knicks. Looking at the total, last I checked, 234, and the Knicks are 12-point favorites at home. Big piece of news here: Gafford is out, and the Wizards went and acquired Marvin Bagley, who's projected to be the starter. We're giving him around 25 minutes. I think that's probably safe. But yeah, how do you feel about Bagley as chalk? I definitely prefer him on DK where he's 4K, but you also get the power forward eligibility over on FanDuel. A guy who historically is around not quite a point per minute, but if he does play 25, that is just about value on a limited slate, so I don't mind him here. But yeah, the only piece of injury news is that Gafford's out, but they're very thin in the front court, so you have to think Bagley gets the run, right?
yeah, Bagley at 4K really tough for me to avoid here. I
Mhm.
don't love playing chalk centers a ton, but 4K, obviously no Gafford here, so they have Isaiah Livers, but he doesn't technically play center. So I
Mhm.
got to imagine that Bagley should, play the vast majority of the minutes and crush. So yeah, I really like him tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he's a good chalk, especially on DK at 4K flat. We'll get to the Memphis game in a little bit. There's another chalky center there that I think makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, the best value is at center tonight. So going back to that Vooch call I had, I mean, he is tough to get to just because the best value plays are at center. I mean, Denny's fine at his price. I don't mind Kuzma. I mean, there is a wide spread here. This game could turn into a blowout. But yeah, I guess let's talk about the Knicks now because they are going to be paced up. It is a soft defense. Josh Hart is questionable. Still no Mitchell Robinson. Obviously opens things up for Hartenstein as a center play, but a lot of ownership going here. And I get it. High total, soft defense, some blowout risk though. But Brunson over 30% on both sides. Randall pushing 30% on both sides. Hartenstein, he's shown some high ceiling games, albeit not super consistently. OG drawing some ownership, DiVincenzo as well. So these Knicks are definitely drawing ownership. But how do you feel about them here in the early game? Obviously, a great matchup, but also some risk as far as the blowout goes, I guess.
Yeah, in terms of like cash games, these guys are going to be probably really tough to avoid, in my opinion. Particularly Jalen Brunson here at
Yeah.
8,500. I think it's just too cheap of a price point. Obviously, I kind of consider Washington. I like to target everyone against Washington. They're just
Mhm.
really bad defensively. So I think he looks incredible at 8,500. And then Randall Hardenstein. I love both those guys as well. Should pretty much get their way against this Washington team. So those guys I think are very, very good plays as well.
Yeah, man. But yeah, checking out the comments here. Jose, Always love to see it, man. One of our most loyal viewers. Glad you guys are here. Need this money. Derek Wilson's so ready. And then Jose asking, are we eating the Bagley chalk? Yes, I would say right now we are certainly eating the Bagley chalk. And you have to think, even if this game gets out of hand, they're so thin in the front court. Like, I don't know that they're rushing to get Anthony Gill minutes. They probably want Bagley as acclimated into this team as possible. So he should probably play 25, regardless of how this game goes, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, man, I do agree. I do like a lot of these Knicks. They are pretty popular. I think there are some pivots. But let's get into the or not 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern window now. This game's kind of on an island. We got two games at 7:30. This one game at 9 Eastern, and then two games at 10 p.m. So just keep that in mind. But a pretty interesting game here. We got the Thunder at the Jazz. OKC 3-point favorites on the road. Pulling up the injury reports. So for OKC, Dort is questionable. Trey Mann is now available. And then Jiang, I don't know that he's been a major part of this rotation, but he's listed as questionable as well. SGA's not been hitting his ceiling as frequently lately. I don't know if that's because a lot of this usage is going to Jalen Williams. But yeah, I mean, on a limited slate, 10-2 on DK does appeal to me. Holmgren looks okay here. Pretty good matchup against Utah. But yeah, how are you feeling about OKC? They are pretty healthy. Maybe Dort's out, and that opens some things up on the wing. But they all kind of seem about priced where they should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I noted this in Discord a couple nights ago, but I think SGA has been battling a little injury.
Yeah,
He's
I do
popped up in
remember
the
seeing that.
injury report the other day. He just hasn't looked right. I watched him play the past two games. Just hasn't looked like himself. Could easily bounce back tonight, but I am a little bit cautious with him.
Mhm.
Just looks like he's battling that, so I still think he looks really good. But yeah, Jalen Williams, he's been incredible, man. Just very, very highly skilled player. So I think he looks pretty good in tournaments as well.
Yeah, I agree. At the ownership, I mean, he's probably my favorite Thunder player here. Definitely priced up a bit on FanDuel. But yeah, he's kind of the Jalen Johnson of the West, in my opinion. These guys are the same price. They're forwards. They're young. They're really kind of elevating their game right now. And I think with the usage down on SGA, yeah, I did remember you kind of mentioning that. You thought he was banged up watching that. So yeah, I like Williams. I think you can get to SGA. This is the type of matchup he should be able to do well in, but I would be lying if I didn't say I was a little bit concerned by his regression that we're seeing recently. Maybe it's something passing, maybe he's sick. I don't know what it is, but definitely something to monitor. But yeah, I guess that's it. I guess I'll ask you though, if Dort's out, is there anyone specifically that's going to get you to? I mean, Kenrich Williams does seem to be part of the rotation. Inconsistent minutes for him though. I don't know. I like Joe and Wallace, but they're kind of backup guards. I don't know that they get much extra run if Dort's out. But is there anyone that stands out to you?
Yeah, maybe we could look to Case and Walls. I think he backed up Dort. Like I think he's the direct backup.
Mhm.
But I don't like love anyone down there. I don't know. I think I'll probably just maybe take a side on one of those guys or probably avoid most lineups.
Yeah, I think we have enough value at other positions that maybe we don't need to go there. I think maybe Aaron Wiggins could start if Dort is out, but just a situation to keep an eye on. Not necessarily anything that's going to really change our night too much. Moving over to the Utah side now, taking a quick look at the injury report for them. Just a bunch of G League guys, so they're healthy. But it's interesting. I mean, even with these guards healthy, we have seen them hitting value. Colin Sexton, in particular, his price doesn't seem to move. Does seem to be hitting around 35 fantasy points per night. Obviously, Clarkson has a very high ceiling off the bench. Chris Dunn's still very cheap over on DK at 4,100. So it's a weird situation. It's like there's definitely a lot of mouths to feed in this backcourt, but they all do seem to kind of be getting theirs lately. But how do you feel about Utah here?
Yeah, man. One of my favorite plays tonight is actually Laurie Markin, 8.3K. For some
Mhm.
reason, DraftKings just does not want to bring up his price, and he's been crushing, man. Just very steady production. I know OKC is a better defense, but it's still probably too cheap of a price point and game total for him in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I mean, I just mentioned all the guards except for Keontae George, which is kind of funny. 4,800 on DK, only 4% owned. I think he's very interesting here. We have him right around 25 minutes. I don't know that you want more than like one or probably not more than two. I don't even feel great about having two in a lineup, but I think all these guards have some upside. And then, yeah, you mentioned Laurie. The price does feel too cheap over on DK. So a healthy team, not the best matchup against OKC, but this is one of the higher totals on the slate. I don't think think there's any real reason to shy away from Utah. It's just a matter of who's going to go off. I don't think the ownership or the usage concentrates on these guys as much as it does on other teams. It definitely gets spread around game to game. So some volatility here, but you're seeing that in the ownership. Nobody over 20% owned on either site. So Utah definitely a spot maybe we can consider. Um,
Definitely.
let's see. Yeah, good segue here, Jose. Talk to me about the Grizzlies. Are they good value? We're just about to get into that. Giddy needs more minutes. Yeah, I think he beat his case, I heard today. I don't know if that's true because after that, another article came out that the NBA was still investigating it. So, yeah, Giddy, we'll talk about him in a second, but I don't know. Off the field issues for him. Um, yeah, I guess we kind of glazed over that one. We already did talk about OKC. Giddy coming off a game where he only played 19 minutes, 21 minutes before that. I mean, he does have upside, but I think at his price, he's just tough to trust for me right now, kind of knowing the type of player he is, needs his shots to fall. And if he's not seeing consistent minutes, I think the ownership's right on him being very low. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely, man. The minutes have just been so up and down. On this
Hmm.
big of a slate, I just don't think we really need to go there. So,
Yeah, and maybe if Dort's out, that is someone who
yeah.
might benefit. But again, it's tough to really say that for sure. What else here? So yeah, I guess we can move into these late games now. Um, and yeah, definitely. Let's see. I mean, I want to transition to the Grizzlies because we have all those questions, but let's go with Indy and Sacramento first because they're next on the injury report. Indy, very, very vital to today's slate. No Tyrese Halliburton. I believe he was ruled out, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
he's out.
yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at the 5:30 injury report, which is a little confusing because he was questionable there, but he's out. Mathurin questionable though. Nemhard questionable. Naismith questionable. Last I checked, I think some of these have been updated though. So I'm scrolling here, trying to see. Nemhard is questionable. Yeah. So Halliburton's the only one we have, right? He's out.
Siakam's out too, I think, off the trade.
Yeah, it says Siakam won't make his debut. But we're still waiting on Naismith, Matherin,
Mhm.
and Nemhard. So this is interesting. Obviously, we want to get to some of these Pacers here. McConnell's going to look good regardless, but we've seen his biggest games come with Nemhard out as well. So I already like McConnell here with Halliburton out, but he's going to be a priority for me if we get news that Nemhard's going to be out of the lineup. Nemhard will be the starting point guard. We can expect McConnell to come off the bench if he's in. But again, McConnell's biggest games this season have come with Nemhard out of the lineup. Then we got a guy like Buddy Hield who's very scoring dependent, should see extra shots here. Mathurin, kind of a similar player, very popular on FanDuel at 5,500. Rick Carlisle doesn't seem to want to play him 30 minutes. Maybe he does get that extra run here tonight. Again, no Siakam. They traded away Bruce Brown, so he's not going to be in the rotation. And then, yeah, so many questionable guys here. I mean, Toppin as well. Toppin, Naismith, Nemhard, Mathurin. Very, very fluid situation, and it's kind of difficult to navigate because this is one of those games locking late. 245 point total, 8 point underdogs on the road in Sacramento. But I guess what's your take on Indy right now, knowing that there is kind of a lot of news we're still waiting on?
Yeah, I really, really like McConnell here tonight. I know guard is loaded, but yeah, they're down Halliburton, potentially down Nimhard. I just think this is a really good spot here for McConnell. The price point has came down as well. I'm gonna be way overweight in tournaments to him. Really like him here. And then Matherin's like almost 6.5K on DraftKings, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
He's also questionable, so if he's out as well, that's another body out for Indiana. So bumps the Healed and those guys. And then we have to remember also Bruce Brown is now out of the rotation for Indian as well. So that's
yeah.
more minutes to go around to these guys as well.
Yeah, and this is interesting. A name I want to bring up, and he's not even in the model yet. The model only brings in guys if they're getting 10 minutes or more. But if we get a couple of these guys ruled out, say Nemhard and or Mathurin, Jacare Walker, the Pacers chose to hold on to him instead of trading him in that deal. They're giving up an extra first round pick because they wanted to keep Walker around. Walker last game played 26 minutes, scored 31 fantasy points. He's only 3-6 on DraftKings tonight. 5,600 on FanDuel is going to be tougher to get to, but definitely someone to keep an eye on. And it's interesting. He's not even in the model yet. I don't think he's going to be projected for much ownership across the industry, but definitely a name to keep an eye on that would be benefiting here if we get word some of these guys are ruled out. Toppin questionable as well, but if Naismith's out and Poppins in. I think he's going to benefit. Isaiah Jackson's another guy who could benefit with a couple guys ruled out. But yeah, you almost want to build a lot of this game into your lineups because you're going to be able to kind of pivot off of these plays onto other plays because they're all pretty cheap, you know, even if they're in. Like Jalen Smith's only 5,400 on DK, Naismith only 4,900. I'm with you. I like McConnell more than Nemhard, regardless of whether Nemhard's in the lineup. But yeah, I mean, if a few of these guys are ruled out, you're going to want to get to some Jacare Walker, maybe some Jalen Smith, etc. Um, Not a bad matchup against the Kings. The Kings are a good team, but they play pretty fast. Not the toughest defense either. So, yeah, I'm hoping we get some of this news before True Lock at 7:30. But yeah, definitely a situation to keep an eye on. Could be a very thin rotation there tonight.
Yeah, and how do you pronounce it? How do you pronounce it?
Jacare?
Jacare. Yeah. I was gonna go by Walker because I'll totally mess that up. But he's very talented, man.
And
And
I
and
think I'm wrong. I think it's Jerace. And the reason I'm saying Jacare is I'm a UFC fan. I'm thinking of Jacare Souza. Uh,
oh, okay.
so my
Okay.
dyslexia, which I am undiagnosed, but I'll claim it right now. I think I have the C where the R is in my head, but kid can ball for sure.
Yeah, he's really good. So
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen out of him. And yeah, there's other guys on that bench that maybe get some run, like a Ben Shepherd. I don't trust him necessarily. And they do have a big there, this Oscar Tashibwe guy, another impossible name to pronounce. But I think most of these guys end up ruled in. Like, it's weird that so many are questionable. I mean, it says injury slash illness, and then, I don't know, hamstring sprain, ankle sprain, thoracic sprain, strain for what's the difference between a sprain and a strain? I don't know. OB Toppin, left calf strain. Um, but yeah, I guess Oscar Toshibu's down with the G League, so we don't have to consider him. But yeah, man, it's rare we see this many guys questionable.
mhm.
One guy who isn't though is TJ McConnell, so he's definitely someone you should have circled going in. Let's move on to the Sacramento side of things. I don't think they have anybody on the injury report today. Yep, they're 100% healthy. Good for them. But yeah, Fox, Herter, Barnes, Murray, Sabonis. I don't have much interest in Harrison Barnes, obviously. Herter has been really good since he's been starting. Shot really poorly to start the year. His price is up. He's unowned, though. I think you could maybe roster him and hope that someone's ruled out for Indiana and then pivot there if you need to. But yeah, I definitely like Fox and Sabonis here. Murray as well has flashed a very high ceiling. But where are you at on these Kings as things stand?
Yeah, really like Sabonis here. I know I'm kind of going through all the chalky
Yeah.
defensive plays, but one thing to note, first of all, it's a revenge narrative for Mr. Sabonis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that, and then also it's just a great matchup, right? Miles Turner, decent defender, but really up tempo game. So really like Sabonis, and then Fox, just kind of in the same boat. Great game environment. I think he's firmly in play as well in tournaments.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have too much recency bias in playing DFS, but Fox has actually been scoring better than SGA recently, and obviously he's much cheaper. So I like him a lot as a guard play. Not even that popular, sub 20% on FanDuel, 10% over on DK. And again, if you're using these late games, you're going to have more ability to kind of pivot around if we do get some news that breaks late. This game, 245 total. Moving into the next game here, just a 214 total. Certainly not as appealing, but we do have a lot of injury news here with Memphis. We did have some questions about Memphis. Is Gregory Jackson good chalk? About to talk through that. And yeah, how do we feel in general about the Memphis chalk? But let's get right into this here. Clicking between my screens. So Steven Adams obviously out for the year, still on the injury report. Desmond Bain is out. Brandon Clark is out. John Morant is out. Derek Rose is out. Marcus Smart is out. They are very, very thin in the backcourt and the front court alike. Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. should be good to go here. They had that huge Gregory Jackson game with Jaren out, but we're still projecting Greg Jackson for 25.6 minutes, 4K on DK. I do think he's tough to get away from. On FanDuel, though, they've upped him all the way to 6'4". We're seeing 0% ownership on him. It's funny. I mean, it really is kind of site dependent tonight. Luke Kennard on FanDuel, almost 50% owned. Only 11% owned on DK at 5,300 though. And then Vince Williams has been awesome for them, but his price is up on both sites. Not all that popular, but yeah, man. I mean, there is a lot to like here. Xavier Tillman should be in as well. He's flashed some upside at times. Inconsistent minutes for him though, but obviously a very tough matchup for the front court guys, especially against Gobert and Towns. But where you at on Memphis? And I guess start with the Greg Jackson chalk on DK. He's power forward eligible, which makes him easier to get to. Obviously, we like Bagley as a center play there, but you can play both these guys and still keep your utility spot open.
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Chuck on a couple streams ago were laughing about GG Jackson, about like, oh, like people are playing GG Jackson, but
Yeah.
like now we're actually playing him, right? He's 4K, getting rotation minutes, played over 20 the past 2 games, and actually he's a really good fantasy producer. Coming out of South Carolina, like he's very talented, gets putbacks, rebounds, so I really like him here. I know he's really chalky, but give him like 20 to 25 minutes at 4K, he should crush. So I like him a lot.
Yep, I'm with you, man. And one interesting play to me here is actually David Roddy. He's still sub 5K on both sites, showing 0% ownership on both sites. Zaire is probably going to get the start on the wing, but I actually prefer Roddy. He's been the better fantasy player recently in terms of fantasy points per minute. He also is more likely to get run in a blowout. So for me, David Roddy at no ownership, I think I like a lot tonight, only projecting him for 20 minutes. But I have trouble expecting he'll only play 20. I think we do see more run from him, especially if this game gets out of hand. Only played 21 against Golden State, but prior to that, 25 plus minutes in 3 straight games. Are you with me on Roddy? I mean, 0% owned. It's kind of dicey, but I do like him better than Zaire right now. And I know not much ownership going to Zaire Williams anymore. But yeah, I kind of like Roddy here.
Yeah, Roddy. First of all, shout out CSU where I go to college. Former CSU Ram.
Oh, nice.
David Roddy.
That's a
So
lot.
yeah, yeah, I don't mind him here. I like him better when they're a little bit more depleted, but I think he makes sense as a. Is he loaned? Assuming he's low on value plus. So
0%.
yeah, very perfect. No one's playing him.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't mind him at all. He's like a low on flyer. I wouldn't say I'd get to a ton, but I definitely like the Calder for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to load up on him or anything, but it's kind of a last piece in. I think he makes some sense. And I'm a little bit surprised by the Tillman ownership, I will say. Obviously, Jackson, very appealing on DK coming off the bench at 4K. But Tillman's going to be relied on here. And yes, you run into the risk of foul trouble against Gobert and Towns. Um, but yeah, 5,500. I know everyone's loading up on Bagley. I'm guessing that's why, but sub 5% on both sites. A little bit surprising to me on Xavier Tillman. Inconsistent minutes somewhat, but this does feel like a matchup. They're going to need him. And he has played 30 plus in 3 straight. So I don't know. I think I want to be over the field on Tillman if I can make it work.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome, awesome. And then I guess only team left, and then I'll get to all the questions, guys. Don't worry, it is the Timberwolves. No one on their injury report tonight of any real significance. Just a few G League guys. Good matchup here against a thin Memphis team. Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, all kind of fine as tournament plays. Mike Conley probably a little bit overowned on FanDuel. I do get it at the price of 5,600, but is there anyone here for you standing out for Minnesota?
Yeah, so man, Minnesota on the last slate, it seems like all three of their studs crushed. And this matchup in particular, I really like Anthony Edwards here in tournaments. 18% on DraftKings, going to be probably one of my higher exposed elite guards. And then Cat Towns and Gobert, I think, are always in play. Not a fantastic matchup, but they're really good in the paint, so they're both fine. But I prefer Ant out of the three, and then that's probably all for me from Minnesota.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, there's really not much here I love. I will say a player I'd never ever play that I might tonight is Jaden McDaniels. He's coming off a couple of good games. I don't like the price, but by rostering him, I mean, if we get word that all those guys are in for the Pacers, you're fine with McDaniels. Maybe he gets you 25, 30 fantasy points. But if some of those guys are out for the Pacers, you could very easily pivot onto some of that value. And someone like McDaniels at a thin forward position makes that possible. So it's not that I really like much here from Minnesota, but I'll probably mix them in a little bit heavier than I would on other slates just because we are going to want to wait on some of this news for the Pacers. But yeah, so okay, we're through the team by team. I mean, we pretty much talked through every single play. But yeah, let's. Is Gregory Jackson good chalk? I think on DK, yeah, certainly. He's probably gonna have to play 26 plus minutes. Peter B here sounds like a Murray kind of night. Yeah, man. I mean, he's had a very, very high ceiling. Really soft matchup here. They're going to be paced up. Some nice fire emojis from our boy Ace here. Shouts out, man. Appreciate you being here. And Pacers will have 1 to 2 or more ruled out in these two messages from Race Fan. Yeah, man. It's tough to say. Again, they're waiting for Siakam. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know if like they have the flu in the locker room or what the hell's going on here, but it's weird to see this many guys listed as questionable. But definitely a wait and see situation. So I don't know. We got 15 minutes left. Does it make sense to go position, or should we kind of? I guess we could.
We can go position, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go quick. So I guess what are your? Let me hit one refresh and let me check the news. I don't want to talk about things that maybe we get the Bruce Brown update that we were waiting for. I think
Yeah.
that's going to change things a bit, at least with the Trent ownership more than anything.
He should be officially in. So yeah, if he does start, we need to monitor that because that could really hurt Gary Trent here.
Yeah, and last I checked, we had him in the model, but he wasn't getting many minutes.
Okay.
Let me check though. Yeah, we got him up to 20 minutes now, and I guess if he comes off the bench, that's probably accurate. I personally think he could play more.
Hmm.
But yeah, if he starts, obviously, we'll see that bump up in the model. All right, so I got point guard, shooting guard selected on DK. I'll sort by OF index first. But yeah, where are you at on guard right now? I mean, there's a lot to like for sure. Obviously, McConnell's kind of our boy, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll start with McConnell. Really like him here. Already kind of went through wide. Hoping a lot of these Indiana guys are out. A great matchup. And then Brunson. I think those are probably my two favorites at the guard position. Anthony Edwards, firmly in play. Already kind of went through him. Let's talk about the other Utah guards here. So
Hmm.
Colin Sexton, I think he's a pretty good GPP play tonight. He's been
Hmm.
crushing, man. 6.2. Is he 6.2? I think
Yep.
he's a pretty good price there for him. Great matchup. And then, yeah, I was trying to see if there's anyone else. SGA, we already mentioned, like, great matchup here. Just a little bit worried about his knee injury.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, is there any other guys you really like?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Sexton. I like him with the ownership. I think he makes sense. Keontae George probably want to play him in a lineup with Sexton, but another guy who's probably lower owned than he should be has plenty of upside. I'm with you on McConnell. I'm going to load up on him. If Nemhard's in, I'll maybe take a few of those McConnell chairs, flip them to Nemhard, but I definitely prefer McConnell as far as like fantasy point per minute goes. A little bit surprised by the ownership on Quentin Grimes. I guess he's one of those guys that's kind of a hybrid. Like he's already in the rotation and he could see running a blowout as well. So I guess that's why he maybe makes some sense there. But to me, he's one guy who seems overowned. We need to keep an eye on the Toronto starting lineup. As long as Trent starts, I do think he's fine as chalk, but proceed with some caution there. But yeah, let me just search by OF index once more. I do think Fox is a little bit underowned, especially if people are just loading up on Brunson and SGA. I mean, he should probably be owned similarly to those guys. He's about a third of Brunson, half of SGA. Obviously, similar upside in a great matchup, so I do want to get to some of him. Um, but yeah, I think we covered everything else for the most part. I mean, I do want to touch on RJ Barrett, but to me,
Yeah.
he's more of a forward. He's kind of a forward only
Mhm.
on FanDuel, so I'll use that as a chance to transition here. So
One more thing before I let you go to Fords real quick.
yeah,
What are your thoughts on Quickly tonight? Because he's projecting for sub 20% on both sides. I just don't know how the Bruce Brown news, it should cut more into Gary Trent's minutes.
yeah.
But I'm kind of interested how that'll cut into Quickly's minutes as well.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Quickly probably plays 30. Brown, the thing about Brown is like he's not really a high usage player when he is on the floor. He's mostly there for defense. He actually runs some pick and roll as a big. I don't think that they're going to have the chemistry there with Quickly yet to really get that going. But that's something to just keep an eye on for the future. But yeah, I don't imagine that hurts Quickly. I am a little bit surprised that he's only around 20%. He's been super popular on recent slates. But yeah, I think most people are going to Trent, and it feels kind of weird playing two pieces of that backcourt. But
Yeah,
honestly, I mean, with Brown in, I mean, Quickly is definitely the safer now, probably of the two, and a
I
little
agree.
bit less scoring dependent, going to play more minutes. So that's a sharp call. I like that. I think that's a really good pivot. If you could find the salary, just pay down somewhere else. Maybe get a little bit less Gary Trent tonight, and a little bit more Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
But yeah, now we're at forwards. RJ Barrett, very popular on both sides. I think, regardless of Brown being in, I do like him a lot. Barnes' price is down in a big way. Again, with the trade, I mean, he hasn't been doing as much ball handling. I think that is going to settle out as we kind of move forward. But I'm guessing you're with me. Jalen Williams is a play I really like here. Only 12% owned on DK, 11% on FanDuel, a bit more expensive, a little bit tougher to get to, but I think he makes plenty of sense. We had someone call out the Keegan Murray play, another King, going a bit overlooked in that great matchup against the Pacers. But yeah, tons of forwards to choose from tonight. I guess who's standing out to you?
Yeah, so obviously Julius Randle in this matchup against Washington, really
Mm-hmm.
tough to overlook him. At 8,800. And then already mentioned Laurie Markin, and I just really like him here. I know it's a tough matchup. And then you mentioned Jalen Williams, like especially if I'm gonna get to less SGA, definitely want to
Yeah.
get to more Jalen Williams here. It makes sense to get to him. And then yeah, obviously DeRozan, he's in a decent spot. Revenge narrative for him as well against his old team in Toronto. And then Patrick Williams, I don't understand why he's 20%. I guess he's 3.7K. That would make more sense, but don't love that as chalk either.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree on Williams. Pretty inconsistent. Yeah, I mean, the Memphis guys are definitely going to be interesting here. I talked about Roddy. He's definitely like a large field, high risk type play, but I think Jaren Jackson's fine. If that game is going to stay close, you have to imagine he's a big reason for that. Obviously, not a great matchup in a very low total game against Minnesota, but usually with Bane and Morant out, Jackson's like super chalky. Tonight we're seeing him just 14% owned on a 5 game slate. So I think he makes some sense. Obviously, bad matchup, bad total. But at the same time, lower owned than we usually see him here. Um, but yeah, man, I want to mix in some of this value. I think the Indiana situation is going to be very big, especially at forward. I think we already like McConnell regardless. Like, if Nemhard's in, maybe just get a share or two of him over McConnell. But at forward, I mean, we have Heald, who's going to be in, but scoring dependent. Naismith, questionable. Toppin, questionable. Mathurin, questionable. Just a very fluid situation. So maybe just put a few of those guys in your lineup. If they're all out, I mean, you could maybe pivot to like Herder or something. Murray, if you have the salary. But I think I just want to build heavy with a lot of these wings for Indiana and just kind of mix and match depending on the news.
Yeah, Heald's a guy I forgot to mention. Yeah, I just think if all these guys are out, Heald's going to look incredible here.
Mm-hmm.
And his price is not too steep at all. So, yeah, definitely a good call with Buddy Hield.
Yep. I mean, the price is up on him. He's pretty inconsistent. But again, if everyone's out, who's going to shoot? Like,
Yeah.
McConnell, good player, but he's more of a facilitator than anything. Turner could get run off the floor at times here. Don't love the matchup for him. So, yeah, I mean, Mathurin, great scorer. Carlisle seems to want to limit his minutes. A lot of signs pointing to getting to somebody healed here. But yeah, I guess that's it for forward. I mean, I don't know. Vince Williams, fine. I don't love the price increase. Levine does feel a little bit too cheap to me over on DK, 71. DeRozan a little bit lower owned than I thought he'd be as well. I don't mind getting to those Raptors again. This matchup against Toronto isn't a great one, but with Siakam gone and no Podol, I don't think they're going to be quite as good defensively. Again, with quickly moving in too. Um, and yeah, no more OG. Like they were kind of a defensive stalwart in the earlier in the season. The makeup of their team is definitely shifting though, and maybe it takes the data a little bit of time to catch up on that. So I don't mind the Bulls here against Toronto, especially the forwards. But yeah, another bull I don't mind if you can get to him is Vooch. Really like him when he's facing small front courts. That's exactly what we're seeing here. Um, but yeah, I mean, damn, if you can get to Sabonis, he looks awesome against his former team. Uh, we have the chalk at center in Bagley. Gigi is a power forward on DK tonight, so I guess we should have brought him up. He definitely looks good. But yeah, what other centers are you interested in? Because it's a pretty good position, I'd say. Usually it's stacked though. It feels a little bit thinner maybe than usual.
Yeah, I mean, for me, still, it's probably going to be double center night for me on DK. Just so many good options here.
Hmm.
Sabonis, Hartenstein. You mentioned Vooch. I really like that call. We just saw 80 a couple games ago, crush Toronto in the first half and have a huge game.
Yeah.
So love that call. And then, yeah, Bagley's the obvious one. Don't really want to go over him too much. He's just the easy plug and play. And then I want to mention Chet Holmgren at 7,800.
Hmm.
Like once again, if I'm not getting the SGA as much, gonna want to get other spots. And what it can't be a better spot here against Utah, who isn't the best team defensively. against opposing bigs. So really like Shed as well.
Yeah, it's funny with these rookies, like with Chet and Wemby. It seems like the field just like has crazy recency bias. It's like Chet will have two bad games and his ownership falls through the floor. He'll have a big game and then he's way overowned. He's coming off two like not terrible but not great games, so this is probably the time to strike while the iron's hot. Pretty
Yeah,
good matchup here. High OF index rating too. I mean, if we're sorting by OF index, he is the third best center on the slate, ahead of guys like Vooch, Towns, Gobert. So a lot of reason to like Chet here. Randall, we could play it forward. But yeah, man, I mean, there are good options, I will say, but it's
um,
interesting because most of them also have forward eligibility. So yeah, I do think you could play two centers and feel good about it. I do think Tillman's under owned, assuming he's starting. Jonte Porter last night was interesting. He had like a really good first stint, and then he kind of fell off a cliff. I don't know. It's tough to really make sense of that Toronto front court as long as Poeltl's out, but I guess you could maybe get to those guys, him and that is some value, but eh.
yeah.
Um,
One thing to note with Hardenstein as well, didn't know he's been playing like 35 minutes as like a floor, barring
mm.
foul trouble. So this guy's just playing all of the minutes in a fantastic matchup. So I think he's one of my favorite mid tier center clubs as well.
Yeah, that's a good shout. And yeah, the thing, this game's going to have to stay close. I think it
Yeah,
could. But the thing about Dibs is once you get on his good side, you stay on his good side. And it took a while. It was funny. Like with Robinson out, he was trying to start Jericho Sims over him for a while. But Hartenstein's really upped his game, especially defensively. I think he's like top five in blocks and steals and stocks and everything. Like he's been playing really well. But yeah, Thibs likes him now all of a sudden, and now instead of limiting his minutes and pissing us off, he's going to play him almost 40 a night. So we should take advantage of that while we can. Definitely feels a little bit too cheap on DK, 6,700, and then the 77 doesn't feel great on FanDuel, but you're getting power forward eligibility, and you do get extra points for the stocks. Hartenstein, a guy who does get a lot of blocks and steals. This feels like that type of matchup. Two steals, two blocks last game. Didn't have a great game against Orlando, but he had six total stocks against the Grizzlies, where he had four blocks, two steals, two games before that. So we know he has the ceiling to justify the price point. I think that's a really good call. Jalen Smith, too, someone who maybe gets more involved here if some of these guys are ruled out for the Pacers. But yeah, man, coming up on 6:30, I'm going to take a look at the questions and then we'll get into builds. Fox and Sabonis together. I mean, I don't see why not. They've both shown plenty of upside. They're both reasonably priced, and Indiana is still a great matchup, even with Halliburton off the floor. Halliburton's a good defender, but he plays fast. I don't think the pace is going to be quite the same, especially if Nembhard's out. But at the same time, 5 game slate. There's only so many guys to pay up for. I'm fine with it. Do you agree?
yeah, I'm fine with it. Just one thing to note there, I would definitely try to run it back with one Indiana guy if you're playing
Oh yeah,
Fox and Sabonis.
yeah, definitely. Anthony, late to the show. Who's the best value? Who's the best spend up? I think Marvin Bagley on DK makes a lot of sense. GG from I don't want to say GG Allen like the guy. He's not GG. Gregory Jackson,
Yeah,
GG Jackson for the Grizzlies looks really good on DK as well. And then Luke Kennard's probably too cheap over on FanDuel. I mean, if we're sorting by FanDuel value, pull off centers who pops up. Um, but yeah, if Nembhard's out, it's going to be McConnell. But yeah, Bagley on both sides definitely value. And then I think our favorite spend ups tonight, I think it's got to be Sabonis. I guess if I'm only picking one.
yeah. Sabonis, I think, is the guy that like has the biggest ceiling in terms of these top studs. So yeah, I like that call.
Yep. Anson with a comment here. Vince Williams gets all the usage for Memphis. Yes, he's been taking a ton of usage. I think that's why we've seen so many floor games out of Zaire. Kennard not getting maybe as many shots as we want him to. But the thing with Vince, I like him if you can get to him. He is priced up, though. And some of his bigger games did come with Jackson out, so just keep that in mind. I think you can mix him in. I do like him as a play, but with the price increase, maybe not as excited to get there. Here's an interesting one. I'll let you take this first while I dig into it. But do you think Patrick Baldwin could be in line for more minutes than industry is projecting? He's backed up Gafford last 2 games, playing around 17 minutes off the bench. Let's see if he's even in the model here right now. Yeah, I don't think he's even popping up.
I haven't heard that name since he was on the Warriors, man. Or was he in Washington? I don't even remember.
Yeah, he's in Washington now, and yeah, he did. He is coming off 2 games where he exceeded value, 17 and 20
Interesting.
fantasy points respectively. Bagley's the starter, but like you said earlier, Livers isn't a center, so I think Baldwin's probably
Yeah.
still the backup. I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't hate
Yeah,
it.
it's just your like we always talk about if you lock in value in the early games, you're kind of limiting yourself. Like if a lot of those guys end up ruled out for Indiana, you're already using up those value spots. So I don't mind it, especially if you're like a guy playing 150 lineups or something like that. But it does feel a little bit risky here. But
No,
yeah,
I agree.
good shout. It's rare there's plays that aren't even in the model that I would say yes to, and I guess if you're like in a very large field tournament, he makes some sense. So. Um, he said Gafford out, Gallinari and Muscala ship. Yeah, they're gone. So yeah,
Yeah,
just going off your Baldwin point, I don't think it's crazy. A lot of comments here. Appreciate it, guys. Definitely like the channel and subscribe as well. That helps us get more free content like this out to you. Also, check the links in the description below. Very cheap to get into our Discord. We have Jayhawk here who's going to be in there 7 to 7:30 tonight, talking through any late breaking news and helping you guys make sure you're on the right plays. RJ tonight, love him. Both sites at his price, very good play. Stack to Thunder, I don't know about stacking them per se. Um, I mean, you could play Jalen Williams in any lineup. I like him. But like honestly, I only like Williams, Holmgren, SGA. I have trouble getting to Dort and Giddy if they're both in. Um, so yeah, I don't know that I'd be stacking. And like you said, I think you want to get to more Williams and Holmgren in lineups without SGA because you're kind of banking on that SGA floor. But how do you feel about that one?
yep, right there with you. Those are the only three I'm really considering. So yeah,
Yeah, and then we got one from Beantown here. Ben Shepard tonight with Indy looking thin. We gotta wait and see, man. It would take a lot of guys being ruled out for me to get to Shepard. The guy I said earlier as Jacare is actually Jarisi Walker. Got those C's and R's mixed up there, but yeah, he's the guy I want to get to the most. That's very cheap, but I guess Shepard would be someone to consider. Kendall Brown's another guy that's with the team, not a great player, but if they're all ruled out suddenly, all of these names are going to be somewhat viable, but honestly, right now, I'd be surprised if they're all ruled out. I think we're going to see a few of them ruled in. Then it's
yeah.
going to be tough to want to get to someone like Shep. But yeah, love TJ McConnell regardless.
Mhm.
Walker's going to be interesting if we get a couple guys ruled out. And then someone like Smith's okay. Yeah, we got to kind of wait and see. I think that's everything. So let's jump over. I'm going to close that comment out and let's pull up a DK build here.
Let's do it.
So, where do you want to start?
Marvin Bagley.
Marvin Bagley. Yep. And then do we just go with GG too?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but we just got to eat that chocolate. I
Yeah.
think.
No, I tend to agree. At 4K, I mean, he should be able to hit value. All right, so now we got 7K per player to work with. I mean, we could pretty much pay up for whoever we want. All right, we both want McConnell, right? Let's get him in
Yeah,
there.
I'm definitely McConnell there.
And yeah, for those of you who are watching and building, I mean, if we go with a point guard in one of the early games, we're not going to do this now for the sake of time, but you just want to make sure that you have these guys in the later games in the bottom spots in the G, F, and utility because if you need to pivot, obviously there's more flexibility to those positions than the ones that are set for just point guard, shooting guard, etc. Okay, but yeah, still 7,200 per. I mean, we could definitely get some bonus.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's center only, so that's going to take up utility, but that's fine.
I
Still
think
65.
we
Go
both
ahead.
kind of liked RJ Barrett in the mid tier. Should we go him?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Or
I'm
he's
with. I'm with it.
okay.
I'm with it. 65 per. We need a small forward and then a guard and a forward. I almost want more of that late game just in case.
Yeah, I think the late game is probably the sharp move with everyone going to Gary Trent. With Bruce Brown in, I think getting to these Indiana guys is really sharp.
Yeah, I like maybe putting in Keegan Murray, and
Yeah.
then if they're all in, we're fine. And if they're out, we have some maneuverability here. I think
Hmm.
we can even go Fox, and then like yeah, say I don't know, it's almost too much salary there because like. I guess we have like the three most expensive guys in that late
Yeah.
game. It's like if we do get news, it's not like we're going to be pivoting on to value. So it's almost like
I,
we could pay up. Um, I know you
yeah,
like Lori.
I like Brunson and Laurie. Yeah, Brunson. If we don't have any New York guys, kind of want to get to one of the big three with Brunson, Randall, Hartenstein. So
Hmm.
maybe I just think Brunson 8,500. Right, like that just seems way too cheap for him in this matchup. But that's just my opinion.
No, I agree. I like it. It is an awesome matchup. So yeah, let's go Brunson, and then we get Aaron Naismith, and then if Naismith's ruled out, you're gonna have some pivots. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely from Indiana, and we have some flexibility too because we have a bunch of pieces from
Mhm.
Sacramento. We could just check this too. I mean, if we were to go Randall instead of
Yeah.
Brunson, Let's just see what that leaves
I
us.
like that
'Cause,
too.
actually, we'd have to pull Murray, go Randall, then go Murray. No, so Murray's power forward only,
He's
so
only
it's
power
right.
forward. Oh, that's the
Yeah,
worst.
that's okay though. I mean, we can. I don't want to put in Barnes. But let's see. I guess do we go back to Naismith and then we're left with 5,800 at guard? I mean, again, I don't love Naismith as a play, but if he's in, I think he's going to be really strong, especially if some of those other guys are ruled out. Um, I don't know. I don't know that I want to do that twice though.
What if
Is
we
there?
move? What if we move RJ to small forward? Would that allow us to? I don't know if any shooting guard really like.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think he is both still.
Yeah,
They change it every day,
I
so
know.
it's tough to
They had
keep up.
they had Miles Bridges at center for this. I think they still have him at center, which is crazy.
That's obnoxious.
Yeah,
We go Sexton. I know we
yeah,
liked him.
I like him
And
a
then we
lot.
got to go cheap at guard, but I don't know. Not crazy about Isaiah Joe. We got Trent. I mean, just eat the Trent chalk at that point. I think that's a really good build.
Yeah, I mean McConnell, I don't think should be too high on. We'll have to see. I mean, if all those guys out, he probably is more chalky. But
Yeah, yeah, we can move things around. I think what you would do is you would put Trent up here and then try to get McConnell into the guard spot
yeah,
there, so we could pivot if we needed to. But yeah, man, I know you got to get your sheet ready for Discord and everything like that. I don't think we have any more questions. Yeah, Sabonis, Sanson, best play on the slate in a vacuum. Salary doesn't matter. Absolutely love him here. Uh, Thanks from Unicorn Love. Thank you, Unicorn Love. Once again, guys, please, excuse me, just like the video, subscribe to the channel. Slate doesn't lock for another 45 minutes. Any last words, Jayhawk, before we send it off into the night?
nah, man. Good luck tonight, guys. Really fun slate. Win some money.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Yes.